Standard of Living by Dorothy Parker. Annabel and Mitch came out of the tea room with the arrogant slow gait of the leisure, for their Saturday afternoon stretched ahead of them. They had lunched, as was their wont, on sugar, starches, oils, and butter fats. Usually they ate sandwiches of spongy new white bread, greased with butter and mayonnaise. They ate thick wedges of cake lying wet beneath ice cream, and whipped cream and melted chocolate greeted with nuts. As alternates, they ate patties, sweating beds of inferior oil, containing bits of bland meat bogged in pale, stiffened in sauce. They ate pastries, limber with rigid icing, filled with an indeterminate yellow of sweet stuff, not still solid, not yet liquid, like salt that has been left in the sun. They chose no other sort of food, nor did they consider it, and their skin was like the petals of wood anemones, and their bellies were as flat and their flanks as lean as those of young Indian braves. Annabel and Mitch had been best friends almost from the day that Mitch had found a job as stenographer with a firm that employed Annabel. By now, Annabel, 2 years longer in the stenography department, had worked up to the wages of $18.50 a week. Mitch was still at $16. Each girl lived at home with her family and paid half her salary to its support. The girls sat side by side at their desks. They lunched together every noon. Together they set out for home at the end of the day's work. Many of their evenings and most of their Sundays were passed in each other's company. Often they were joined by two young men, but there was no steadiness to any such quartet. The two young men would give place unlamented to two other young men, and lament would have been inappropriate, really, since the newcomers were scarcely distinguishable from their predecessors. Invariably, the girls spent the fine idle hours of their hot weather Saturday afternoons together. Constant use had not worn ratchet in the fabric of their friendship. They looked alike, though the resemblance did not lie in their features. It was in the shape of their bodies, their movements, their style, and their adornments. Annabel and Mitch did, and completely, all that young office workers are besought not to do. They painted their lips and their nails, they darkened their lashes, and lightened their hair, and scent seemed to shimmer from them. They wore thin, bright dresses, tied over their breasts and high on their legs, and tilted slippers, fancifully strapped. They looked conspicuous, and cheap, and charming. Now, as they walked across to Fifth Avenue with their skirts swirled by the hot wind, they received audible admiration. Young men grouped lethargically about newsstands awarded them murmurs, exclamations, even the ultimate tribute whistles. Annabel and Mitch passed without the condescension of hurrying their pace. They held their heads higher and set their feet with exquisite precision, as if they were stepped over the necks of peasants. Always the girls went to walk on Fifth Avenue on their free afternoons, for it was the ideal ground for their favorite game. The game could be played anywhere, and, indeed, was, but the great shop windows stimulated the two players to their best form. Annabel had invented the game, or rather, she had evolved it from an old one. Basically, it was no more than the ancient sport of what would you do if you had $1 million. But Annabel had drawn a new set of rules for it, had narrowed it, pointed it, made it stricter. Like all games, it was the more absorbing from being more difficult. Annabel's version went like this. You must post that somebody dies and leaves you $1 million. Cool, but there is a condition to the bequest. It is stated in the will that you must spend every nickel of the money on yourself. There lay the hazard of the game. If, when playing it, you forgot and listed among your expenditures the rental of a new apartment for your family, for example, you lost your turn to the other player. It was astonishing how many, and some of them among the experts too, would forfeit all their innings by such leaps.
It was essential, of course, that it be played in a passionate seriousness. Each purchase must be carefully considered and, if necessary, supported by an argument. There was no cess to playing wildly. Once Annabel had introduced the game to Sylvia, another girl who worked in the office. She explained the rules to Sylvia and often offered her gambit. What will you be the first thing you do? Sylvia had not shown the decency or even a second of hesitation. Well, she said, the first thing I do, I have to go out and hire somebody to shoot Mr. Gary Cooper, and then... So it is to be seems that she was not fun. But Annabel and Mitch were surely born to be comrades, for Mitch played the game like a master from the moment she learned it. It was she who added the touch that made the whole thing cozier. According to Mitch's innovations, the eccentric who died and left you the money was nobody you loved, or for the matter of that, nobody you even knew. It was somebody who had seen you somewhere and had thought, that girl off have lots of nice things. I'm going to leave her $1,000,000 when I die. And the death was to be neither untimely nor painful. Your benefactor, full of years and comfortably ready to depart, was to slip softly away during the sleep and go right to heaven. These embroiders permit Annabel and Mitch to play their game in the luxury of peaceful consciousness. Mitch played with a seriousness that was not only proper but extreme. The single strength of the girls' friendship had followed an announcement once made by Annabel that the first thing she would buy with her $1,000,000 would be a silver fox coat. It was if she had struck Mitch across the mouth. When Mitch recovered her breath, she cried that she couldn't imagine how Annabel could do such a thing. Silver fur coats were common. Annabel defended her taste with the retort that they were not common either. Mitch then said that they were so. She added that not everybody had a silver fox coat. She went on, with perhaps a slight loss of a head, to declare that she herself wouldn't be cuffed dead in silver fox. For the next few days, though the girls saw each other as constantly, their conversation was careful and infrequent, and they didn't once play their game. Then, one morning, as soon as Annabel entered the office, she even came to Mitch and said that she had changed her mind. She will not buy a silver fox coat with any part of her $1,000,000. Immediately, while receiving the legacy, she will select a coat of mink. Mitch smiled and her eyes shone. I think, she said, you are doing absolutely the right thing. Now, as they walked along the Fifth Avenue, they played the game anew. It was one of those days with which September is repeatedly cursed, hot and glaring, with silvers and dust in the wind. People dropped and shambled, but the girls carried themselves tall and walked a straight line, as benefit John Highness of their afternoon promenade. There was no longer need for them to start the game at its formal opening. Annabel went direct to the heart of it. All right, she said. So you have got this $1,000,000. So what will be the first thing you have done? Well, the first thing I do, Mitch said, I get a mink of gold. But she said it mechanically, as she were giving the memorizing answer to an unexpected question. Yes, Annabel said, I think you ought to. The terrible dark kind of mink. But she too spoke as if by rote. It was too hot for, no matter how dark and sleek and supple, was hurried to the top. They stepped alone in silence for a while. Then Mitch's eye was caught by a shop window. Cool, lovely, gleaming. Were there set off by chest, an elegant darkness. No, Mitch said. I take it back. I wouldn't get a mic of cough the first thing. Know what I want to do? I get a string of pearls, real pearls. Annabel's eyes turned to follow Mitch. Yes, say slowly. I think that's kind of a good idea. And it will make sense too, because you can wear pearls with anything. Together they went over to the shop window and stood pressed against it. It contained but one object, a double row of great even pearls clasped by a deep emerald around a little pink velvet throat. What do you suppose they cost? Annabel said. Gee, I don't know. Plenty, I guess. Like $1,000? Oh, I guess like more, Mitch said. On account of the emerald? Well, like $10,000, Annabel said. Gee, I wouldn't even know, Mitch said. The devil nudged Annabel in the ribs. Dare you to go in and price them? She said.
Like fun, Mitch said. Dare you? Annabel said. Why, a store like this wouldn't be open this afternoon, Mitch said. Yes, it is so too, Annabel said. People just came out and there's a doorman on. Dare you? Well, Mitch said, but you've got to come too. They tendered thanks icily to the doorman for ushering them into the shop. It was cool and quiet, a broad, gracious room with painted walls and soft carpet, but the girls wore expression of bitter disdain, as if they stood in the sty. Is there something? The clerk said. Oh, we're just looking, Annabel said. It was as if she flung the words down from a daze. The clerk bowed. My friend and myself merely happened to be passing, Mitch said, and stopped, seeming to listen to the phrase my friend, here and myself. She went on, merely happened to be wondering how much are those pearls you've got in your window. Ah, yes, the clerk said. The double row, that is $250,000, madame. I see, Mitch said. The clerk bowed. An exceptionally beautiful necklace. He said, would you care to look at it? No, thank you, Annabel said. My friend and myself merely happened to be passing, Mitch said. Their turn to go from their manor where the tremble awaited them. The clerk sprang ahead and opened the door. He bowed as they swept by him. The girls went on along the avenue and disdain was still on their faces. Honestly, Annabel said, can you imagine a thing like that? $250,000, Mitch said. That's $250,000 right there. He's got his nerve, Annabel said. They walked on. Slowly the disdain went, slowly and completely as if drained from them, and with it went the regal carriage and tread. Their shoulders dropped, and they dragged their feet. They bumped against each other without notice or apology or comment. Away again. They were silent and their eyes were cloudy. Suddenly Mitch straightened her back, flung her head high, and spoke clear and strong. Listen, Annabel, she said. Look, suppose there was this terribly rich person, see? You don't know this person, but this person has seen you somewhere and wants to do something for you. Well, it's a terrible old person, see? And so this person dies, just like going to sleep, and leaves you $10 million. Now, what will be the first thing you do